every gym owner who wakes up with the sweaty palms is probably doing so because of money. So if we solve that problem, great, everything else gets easier. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but everything gets easier if I can make you financially literate and you can tell me where your money's going.
You're an inspiration to our entire organization.
Welcome to the Gym Marketing Made Simple podcast. We're going to be talking the done-for-you marketing and sales strategies proven to work with boutique fitness gyms to increase quality lead flow and grow your revenue. Don't try to be a professional marketer and waste tons of money. Let the experts at Lasso do it for you. And now, here are your hosts, Blake Ruff and Sherman Merritt.
All right, guys, here we go. Another episode of our podcast. This is Blake and Sherman. We have a very special guest today, guy I've known for a long time. I don't know if he's special, but we have a guest today. Let's just say that.
My mom thinks I'm special.
Yeah, exactly. So we have Fern on here. He's known as Fern to us. Real name. I'll let you introduce yourself briefly. Give us your real name, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, Jason Fernandez. I do all things CrossFit, man. People ask me what I do. They're like, you do a lot of stuff. I'm like, nope, I just do one thing. I just do it at every possible level that you could do it is CrossFit. So 14-year affiliate owner, worked on seminar staff for a little bit over a decade, and podcast bestseller of their day, and doing affiliate coaching for the past 3-ish years, helping more than 500 affiliates.
All right, perfect. Well, I mean, so let's just jump right into it. You talked about something that I want to jump into. Best hour of your day, right? For you guys that don't know, I'm going to let you explain what it is. For the folks that don't know, Fern, you explain what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it started off as a podcast because I have two partners, Jason Ackerman and Marcus Gursey, both long time, folks in the CrossFit community. Jason's owned 3. He claims 4. One of is in his basement, so I don't count that one. But 3 affiliates, sold them all for profit. One of them for quite a bit, and then Marcus Gursey, who I like to describe as the most interesting man in CrossFit that you probably don't know, but he's been a part of most of the big things that people have heard of. Like, he helped set up a lot of the Reebok gyms. He was a huge component of Barbell Shrugged and Barbell Business. He was a huge component of Barbells for Boobs when that launched, and then a lot of other stuff. It was my first coach ever as far as a business coach. So, but what we do, it started off as a kind of a coaching podcast with regard to just coaching on the floor, and then that evolved over time into, we get a lot of requests to help affiliate owners. So we started doing that, and then that evolved into Affiliate U, which is one of the 2 things that we offer folks. Affiliate U is an affiliate coaching service, and we touch anything that happens in the affiliate we touch, and we coach people on. And then we have digital products, if you will, which is the Knowledge, which is a consumption only. And then now it just has an upgrade, the Knowledge Pro, which is, think YouTube, but just for CrossFit coaching, everything you could possibly imagine in there, theory discussions, video explanations, class reviews, all those things. And that can be found in the App Store if you have Android or iPhone. So, and then we have some other big stuff in the works for 2024, but that's what we do, man. We do all things CrossFit. We do it through the lens of CrossFit, and, primarily via the group model. That is our bread and butter. That's what we know best. And that's where we differ from most people.
Okay, cool. So here's the big thing that we sort of touched on it briefly before we went live here. You guys really focus. Yes, you guys focus on the business piece of it, right? Like, we get that. But I think one of the things that make you guys different, which I really love, is that you guys really focus on the sort of in-house piece, the coaching piece, the product that we're putting out there, so that 1, people get fitter, 2, so that people stay around longer because they just love the product that they're getting, right? Like, which translates to the community. I don't want to use that word, but I mean, the coaching piece is such a big piece of, like, that's what got a lot of us sort of OGs into it, right? I've been doing CrossFit, 14, 15 years. I mean, back in those days, Spill, those guys, like, they were great at CrossFit, but they were technicians when it came to coaching it, right?
And some of those guys were my heroes, man. It's cool. It's weird for me to work with some of the people that I really. I still do admire those guys, but I would have never thought, like, 14 years ago, like, those would be, considered my peers.
Yeah, come on, man. I mean, like we've been in long enough. We get on that journal and watch all those videos, and I'm just like, this is crazy. Like this stuff is life changing. Like for if you haven't been in the community enough, long enough to really know the days of 2008 when the journal was the thing and you posted your workout on main site. That was a beautiful time, right? Like that was a beautiful
I miss
time,
it, dude.
man.
I want to go back to arguing about low bar, high bar back squat instead of the dumb shit that we argue about today. Like that's what I
Come
want to
on.
go back to those days, man. Like I want to argue about macros, training sessions a day. Like I want to argue about shit that matters, man.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, man. I mean, so like for me, like I miss those days. Like I would literally tell my buddy, hey man, you got to go to the comment section of the workout from 2 days ago. Those guys are going nuts in the comment section.
Yeah, those are the good old, and that's it's interesting to bring that up because that's still the way that we feel, and that's still the vibe, the approach that we take into everything. It's how we built Affiliate U. It's how we've mapped out the future. Is that I think there are, and I'd be curious to what your guys' thoughts are on this, but like I think everybody assumed for whatever reason that there was no ability to blend the old and the new, right? There was no ability to keep all the things that we all liked about 2007 and then move into 2000 and 2023. And it's just not true. Um, we've been doing it. We continue to do it, and we get better at it every day because that is the thing that everybody liked about it back in the day, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't that you had upsells in PT, and I'm not poo-pooing PT, but it was like, it
Yeah.
was the kind of the gritty version of that. Now, I don't think you should have dirty bathrooms and fucking sloppy coaches, but
Yeah.
like you don't have to lose that culture and that vibe. You just have to do it better than we were doing it then. And that's really the approach that we look at it. And that's, I designed what's called like the 50-50 model, which is half, you have a pie, obviously 50% of that is like systems, marketing, operations, like all that other stuff, the back end. And the other half of the pie is your service. It's your coaching and your programming. So you can't walk in and be like, hey, listen, if you just get some good systems in here, you're going to grow your business. I'm like, it annoys me to no end when, and I think it's patently insane that there are other people in the space that have said this out loud. They're like, your coaching doesn't really matter. And I'm like, what planet do you live on that like the product and service that you offer has no bearing on the success of your business? I'm like, that is an insane statement.
Yeah, it's just like going to a food restaurant, right? Like,
Right.
oh, if they're amazing, you get there and the food's crap. It's like, well, I'm not going to go back. Why
I'm
would
not
I?
going back. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
there's a I told this story at the Dallas Summit recently. There's a, I like to reference it. There was a restaurant here in Virginia Beach called Lubo, and the food was great. The wine list was great. And every single time we go there, like, which is statistically impressive, something would be messed up. Like we would get the wrong order. It would be delayed.
Mm.
Just every single time. And we kept trying. We'll give him another shot. We'll give him another shot. We'll give him another shot. And finally I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore, dude. After like 2 years of giving this restaurant a shot, I'm like, you guys suck. I want you to win, but you're going to lose. And then not shockingly, they shut down because they could never figure out the actual, like the delivery of the service. Like the food was great, fantastic wine list, but I'm like, I'd say I don't want to be here for 3 hours, man.
Yeah.
I think it's a good
No,
analogy too, because if you think of like, high-end restaurants, it's like if it's consistent all the time, great service, great food, you're going to keep going back, right? Like you're going to
Right.
invest your money in that. Same thing with the gym. If it's a
Right.
great service, great coaches, you have a great product, but like you wonder why your retention's always crap. Well, it's probably because people don't enjoy coming, or you don't do a great job of coaching a lot of times. There's
That
probably
great.
some gyms out there that you can, correct me if I'm wrong. They might not have the best systems and processes, but they have an amazing community just because they have amazing coaches and they do well. But if they did the systems and processes, they would just exponentially
Correct.
grow, right?
Like I've been into some gyms where I'm like, this, like from a professional standpoint, as somebody who wears the red shirt and fancies himself a good coach, is a disaster, right?
yeah.
However, everybody in here is having a great time, right? Meaning like this is fun, but I mean the group management is not great. There's not a ton of seeing and correcting going on. And then I'm like, however, you know what's still happening? Everybody's having a good time. Everybody's getting fit because that's how CrossFit works. And I'm like, and they're seeing success because of that. Could they do better? For sure, but it shouldn't be overlooked how important that is. And the other thing that I think people overlook as well is if you're gonna just be like, hey, we're gonna just jam our prices up really, really high. Listen, people are not dumb. At some point, the consumer will recognize the disparity in the price point that they are paying and the value that you are delivering.
Yeah.
And it's not going to take long, right?
Yeah.
Give it 30 to 45 days before they're like, oh, you're not really that good at this. Like, you don't connect with me on a frequent basis. Like, this coach doesn't really seem to know what they're doing. It's not timely. And I see that a lot, right? There's a lot of people just like, hey, just adjust your prices, just bring your prices up. And I'm like, maybe, probably in the future, but fix your shit first, right? Like, you cannot and should not be having a discussion about price absent of value. Like, those two things just do not, they must be, they're intertwined. You have to talk about them together.
No, I agree, and I think that's one of the things. Like you just said, that you can't talk about price without the value. And with us here at Lasso, like we're big on the marketing and the sales piece. And the fact that you just said that, and we're talking about the CrossFit gym, when we tell people all the time, hey, you really can't. Like, it's tough to give out a price over the phone or over a text message when they have no value, because now you're just talking about an arbitrary number when they can go down the street for $10 a month. So if you're just trying to compete
Right.
on price, like, we cannot win in this space based on price, because someone will always do it cheaper. Like, always.
No, always. There will always be, that's a sucker's game. And the other thing that I don't think is talked about out loud enough is that sometimes that takes a while. Meaning, like, hey, I want you to raise your prices, but you can't do that right now. Like, if you do that right now, you have not earned the right, either in how you treat your clients or the value that provide them, to raise your prices. Like, that has to be earned over time. And that might take you 12 months. It might take you 18 months. We'll get you there. But right now, what I'm going to tell you is, like, you got to do a better job. Then we can talk about raising your prices. Because if you do a better job, nobody will bat an eye at raising your prices. But if you're just going to try to fix the business that you've been running poorly by just simply raising the prices, make no mistake about it. And we have seen this hundreds and hundreds of times. You will have a significant fallout from that. And this is something we do exceptionally well at Best Hour. We have like 100% success rate with raising prices because we talk about it in this light. She's like, hey, we are going to do that, but we're going to have to wait 12 months from that, because what you just told me is that everybody in the gym is pissed off. The ownership wasn't doing a good job. You had a fallout with a coach. So, it's not a good idea? Raising your prices right now. That'll just exacerbate everything that is happening right now.
Yeah, because I've definitely been on the bad end, mentoring some folks on a price increase that went absolutely horrible. And so I agree with you that I don't think it's talked about loud enough and in public enough about, hey, yes, I agree wholeheartedly. This gym needs to get their prices up because they're not going to survive, even if they have 500 members at these rates. But just because they should do it doesn't mean they need to do it right now, right?
Yeah, and then that's the thing, right? And then we treat everything like training, which is, because we could talk about ads too. Like, there's an adaptation that needs to be had inside of the affiliate. Like, so think threshold training, right? Like, you don't get better without making mistakes. And then as you get better, you're capable of managing more, whether it's higher volume, heavier load, 2-a-days, whatnot. You can keep going down that road. And the business is the same way. We were just having a discussion yesterday about people. One of the things that people ask is, hey, I want to expand my space or want to move to a larger space. And internally, we have a rule, which is like the default answer is no, right? Because if I ask a handful of questions, I will very, very quickly be able to find deficiencies. And most often, 99 times out of 100, the scenario would look like this. Hey, I run 6 classes a day, and these 3 in this block are getting crowded, so I'm going to expand. And I'm like, okay, so otherwise stated, what you've just told me is that only 50% of the classes are getting to capacity, and you think that doubling your overhead in the form of rent is a good idea for the potential that people would come in your door. I want to say this very clearly for everybody listening to this podcast. No gym ever has grown simply because they went into a bigger space.
I mean,
That's not.
listen, Fern, I 120% I'm on board. I actually love this. People kill me with the, hey, I want to expand because my classes start to get full. Here's the thing: until people are actually leaving your business and complaining that they can't get in every single class, you don't have to rush to move, right? Like, I'm not saying don't ever expand. I'm not saying that, but like, I took my gym from my garage to a small 1,000 square foot place to a 5,000 square foot place where we are now. In that 1,000 square foot place,
How
literally people couldn't even walk in until the other class walked out because it was so tight. So many people tried. Like, I couldn't have two classes intermingling. All classes were
how
packed.
many classes a day did you run before you moved to 5,000 square feet?
Let me see. Six. It was six of them.
Okay. Yeah, I
Five
mean,
or six.
so there's obviously some wiggle room in that discussion because I would want to know what the rent is, what the increase is, what the like
Yeah.
financially how the business is doing. But like there's
Correct.
for sure some watermarks that just are hard nose for me as
Yeah.
far as expanding, right? Like if you're the gym owner's not paying themselves, absolutely not, right? Like you're not going to
Yeah.
go like that
Yeah.
happens all the time. Like, hey, if I just go to a bigger space, the only thing that you're guaranteed a bigger space is more risk, more liability, and a higher mountain to climb with regard to becoming profitable. Like that's the only thing that is guaranteed. Nothing else is guaranteed by doing that. And I'd want to see them ahead financially in their finances, like 2-3 months ahead, like just stacking cash, because I don't know, anybody that's ever moved know that moving's not free. It's going to cost
Yeah.
you a pretty penny to either do renovations or pick up all your shit and move it across town or whatever you're going to do, but it's not
It's going to
free.
cost you more than you think, too. It's definitely going to
Way
cost you
more
more
than
than
you
you
think.
think.
Right.
I
Just
don't
like,
care how much you budget. Like, I'm a budgeter. I budget. Everything. We just built a new home. I had it laid out. Cost me way more than I thought it was going to cost.
dude,
But we
yeah,
were
it's
prepared.
and I just think that people only look at the upside, and I think that just need to be a little bit more practical about it. So we kind of have like a default answer internally, which is no. You have to prove that you have no other option than to expand before you go ahead and do that, right? So like you need to
Yeah.
add classes, you need to work on your programming, you need to rip that pull-up rig out of the middle of the room and move it somewhere else. Like you need to do, like you need to go. I was having this conversation with somebody else yesterday that I'm like, hey, in your space, while it is small, there's a very good because they were gonna essentially double their rent, and they would double their square foot, so it was gonna go from about 1,800 about 3,600. And I said, but and the owners were making good money, but I was like, you could spend 2 maybe 3 months of that additional potential rent to solve that problem internally, right? So call it $10,000 and you could solve that logistical problem that you have in your current space and probably bump your profitability up, make the vibe cooler and more fun, and you'd be happier. And you wouldn't incur the increased cost in perpetuity for the rest of
Correct.
your life, So it's
Correct.
like, hey, those 7-foot barbells, like this is a scenario when I'm like, you should buy the short barbells, man. Why not?
Yeah.
Right? Like, why not keep the long ones, right? If like you want to do a snatch day or heavy clean and jerk day, great. I'm here for it, man. But like on regular Metcon day, break out those 5-foot, those whatever those bars are, right? You can
Yeah.
load them to the whatever weight you need to, and you could probably fit 3 more people on the floor in that scenario. I'm like, that's a better option than doubling your square footage.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, I don't think people really understand the ongoing sort of the increases that they're going to see month over month forever because there's no really going back, right? Like there's no really going back. Like you can always move to a bigger space if you
Maybe.
say, like if you say, hey, I'm going to kick this can down the road for 8 months. You can always say, oh, I still need a bigger space. But once you sort of go to the bigger space in 6 months, you can't say this isn't working out. I want to go back. Like you've signed a
No,
lease on bought a
absolutely not.
building, so you're stuck.
And it's not just your rent, right? Your utilities are going to go up, right? Your maintenance is going to go up. The supplies that you need to clean the facility are going to go up. You're probably going to have to purchase more equipment in order to fill that out or whatever you're going to do with it. So like, it's not just rent. There's all these hidden costs in there that you're going to have to incur when you do that. So it's just like, hey, just solve your current problem before you move. And that's really the message that we try to teach people is like, you've not earned the right? You've not solved your current set of problems that would make me very confident that you have the ability to go into that other space. So for instance, if you only have 50% of your classes full, then I would argue you've not solved the lead acquisition problem, at which point you definitely should not go double your overhead.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you can't consistently show me that, like, hey, we're getting this many leads, we convert at this percentage, my churn rate is below 5%, like all these things, there's a level of ignorance there. And I don't mean that maliciously. It's just like, you don't know certain things that would allow you to be successful moving forward. And you've jumped the gun here. And it's like, hey, like, I want you to have a big space. I want you to have 400 members. But there are certain skill sets that you have to garner in order to get there. Like 400 people just don't walk in your gym, right? If you're in a 400 person gym, you are in one of two scenarios for the most part. You are either in a densely populated geographic location, downtown New York, where you could probably just pop up a gym and have 400 members, right? You probably still couldn't afford the rent there, but you could have 400 members. Okay. Or you've solved retention problem, like meaning you know how to keep churn probably under 3%, right? You know how to generate both cold leads, warm leads, paid leads, and convert them. And you could tell me those numbers right there. And you probably in a casual conversation could run me through your financials and have a solid team in place that runs that whole thing at 400 members. Like, it's one of those two scenarios. Like, there's 8 million people in my city, or I figured it out. Most people are not in the second scenario.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So Fern, what do you think, you guys work with over, 500 gyms since best hour of your day. What do you think is kind of the, 1, 2 biggest problems that you see and that you guys solve over at best hour of your day that are keeping gym owners from, getting to that arbitrary 150, 200, whatever it may be, right?
Yep. I think there's probably like 3 buckets. Number one is they don't know what they don't know about coaching. That's actually the easiest one to fix. Like I can teach you to coach the air squat, and that's something that we're the best at. Meaning, like we have 5 flow masters that work on our staff, inside of Best Hour, that are flow masters on seminar staff, right? Like the best in the business. So that is just like, hey, people are leaving because like your actual service is just okay. Right. So that's number one. Number 2 is they are financially illiterate. And Sherman, I know you're big in this. I don't know how much you're into this, Blake, but I would imagine the same as Sherman. But like, Sherman, you were on the Dave Ramsey show, weren't you, dude?
Yeah.
Good time. I saw that. Yeah. I think that's dope. They don't understand 2 things. They just don't understand basic money, like P&L, balance sheet, but even more importantly, that they don't understand cash flow. And this is one of the more impactful things that we have done for affiliate owners is teach them the differences between those 2 and give them tools. So we have a full budgeting course that we take people through with a dedicated budgeting coach inside of Best Hour of their day. Because most things that most problems that I'm going to have to solve for an affiliate owner will be, if I ask enough questions, we'll come back to like, what kind of resources do we have available to solve this problem, right? Like, what kind of cash do we have? Where is your money going, right? Every gym owner who wakes up with the sweaty palms is probably doing so because of money. So if we solve that problem, great. Everything else gets easier. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but everything gets easier if I can make you financially literate and you can tell me where your money's going. And then from there, it seems really silly, but like focusing on the basics, not the fancy stuff, right? The basics, right? Like knowing basic numbers, right? Like people are sometimes kind of shocked. They're like, oh, this is what you teach. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm teaching you to do it like a Jedi, right? Like I'm not teaching you, like, I don't want to talk about triple extension, man. Like until you understand the mechanics of the air squat really well, we shouldn't probably talk about the snatch. Right. And that's the approach that we take. Now, I want to get to the advanced stuff because that for me, candidly, is fun. Like I love working with the gyms that are running 50, 60 grand a month. I'm like, this is fun, right? Like we can do some damage here. Right. But going back to the basics is really one of the things that we teach people, is just doing the boring basic work, which nobody wants to do.
I think one thing you hit on too, and me and Sherman talk about all the time, is obviously we run done for you paid marketing for gyms, and like we if they spend $2,000, and even if they make $3,000, it's like don't see that as a win. I'm like, what investment in your life do you get $1,000 return month one? Right. Or even like, say 4,000. That's basically every time you put $1, you get $2. And how often would you do that in a slot machine at Vegas or wherever? It's like you would do that over and over. Why are you stopping? And it's like, oh, it's got to be month over. You're like, no, that accumulates over time, right? So like your basic knowledge, it's amazing, and no fault to like gym owners, but like a lot of people just get into this like because they love working with people, and it's like, well, just go be a lead coach or something.
That's who I want to run gyms, by the way. That's not a bad thing, but what has to be understood is there is a level you have to accumulate other knowledge other than just carrying a lot, right? Like That's the running joke. Is like a carrying is not going to get you there, right? Like the greatest lie I ever told is like hard work will get you what you want. I'm like, no, it won't. That's cost of entry, but hard work will not get you there. I know plenty of people that work really hard that are not successful. Because they're not working smart.
I had a business mentor that was like, fitness is the easiest entry point industry to start something and the most competitive. So like a lot of gym owners go in this like old build it if you'll come, like Field of Dreams day. And it's like, man, you got to realize like you're going against like these metabolic F45, like these massive franchise in your boutique. You got to stand out and you got to do it really well. So you have to be almost raise the bar because they're getting a template of what success is. Right.
Well, I also think you have to know like what you have to your advantage and what disadvantages you have. Like you do have disadvantages there, but there are advantages that you have there, which is most CrossFit gyms, the barrier for entry is very low, which gives me an advantage, meaning my operating expenses are going to be much lower than any franchise. Right. I think Orange Theory breaks even at 500 people. Right. So like think about that. Right. Most CrossFit gyms are like 500. I'm like, that's break even, bro. That gym is in the red at 500, right? Like they're not like nobody's getting paid, So,
and even one level below that, like I had two other CrossFit gyms, not joking, within 800 meters of me, 800 meters. So even at that level, you still have to be like, why am I different than these two guys, right? And how do we do it different? So I think one thing for people listen to this is like, not only do you have to differentiate yourself against franchise owners, big franchises, you have to know what you're so good at within your own gym, because CrossFit obviously doesn't have a proximity radius that, it's somebody could open next door to you. You have to be so good and so confident. And that's why, like, obviously marketing and website and being clear in your communication, because people don't walk into doors anymore. They're looking at websites. They're looking at your social. They're looking at your organic. Like, what does it look like? Because if that doesn't, like, I remember when I had my gyms, like people would always read my website and be like, I looked at other websites and yours it made sense to me. And you were speaking, it felt like you were speaking directly to me. Right. So like people got to realize like words really matter when it comes to standing out, because people like your coaching can be like, you can have the best service, the best coaching, all that stuff. But if you're not getting people in your door, it doesn't matter.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, like at some point I've had a conversation with gyms where I'm like, all right, we've addressed everything. You actually have a front of funnel issue, which is like your website is garbage or something's broken. And I'm like, leads are a thing. I'm not poo-pooing leads, right? Like you cannot run a business fundamentally without selling something, right? That's not how it works. Mathematically, though, most of them don't need more leads. I did a little exercise at the Dallas Summit recently during the keynote that I gave, and was looking at a gym, which were real numbers. I pulled real numbers off two gyms. One, like essentially same price point, and if I looked at essentially what we call like value chains, if I look at a series of numbers that would be in my sales funnel. If you adjusted the numbers by 20%, it would double the size of the business, right? So one started with 12 leads. If I made some subtle changes to that same gym and gave them like a couple more, like 15, meaning I gave them 3 more leads than they were previously getting, but we fixed everything else behind that, it mathematically doubled the size of the business, right? It went from $180,000 to $360,000 gym with 3 more leads. right? Like that math checks out. Like I'm not doing anything crazy. And we've done that time and time and time again. And this is why, people poo-poo our thing. We're just like, net 3, that's bullshit. I'm like, no, math is a thing, right? Like I don't need 50 more leads, right? If I can stack 3 and I can go net 3 every single month, that adds up, right?
Yeah.
And it's an appropriate rate of growth for most people, because there will be things that break as you grow, right? There's multiple levels inside of the affiliate. And my kind of anecdotal numbers is about every 75 people that you grow, there is an entirely new set of skills that are required to be successful at that number. So 75, 150, 225, 300, because it changes, right? Like the math at 300 changes dramatically.
Yeah.
Right. With regard to like members and churn and all that kind of stuff. Like 3% is 3%, but it's not 3. Like everything changes when you get to some of those higher numbers, and you have to know that. And if you're not tracking those things, you wouldn't know where to start in order to solve your own problem. Right. If you're just like, oh man, I just need more leads. I'm like, well, what's your churn? Right. Like what's your conversion rate? Right. Like what's the attendance in your classes? Right. Do you have a personnel problem that needs to be adjusted? Like you don't have a lead flow problem. Like everybody hates Sherman in the 9 a.m. Right. Like whatever it is. Right. Like I'm like, fix that. Right. Yes. Yeah. Right. But you get what I'm saying. It's just like there are so many things to be addressed in there, but everybody just goes right to the leads because it's the pain point, right? The money is the pain point, and the automatic assertion is that, oh, well, more leads will solve this pain. I like to give the analogy. It's like, you guys have been around, like everybody gets CrossFit elbow, which is, I do a lot of pull-ups or rope climbs, and then I get elbow pain. I'm like, oh man, my elbow, right? It's like, I'll just massage my elbow. And I'm like, well, it's not your elbow. Like we should probably take a look at your forearm, like, or your bicep. Maybe your bicep is tight or your forearm is tight. Like your elbow is the site of pain, right? It's not the problem, right? Your cash flow is your site of pain, but it's not the problem, right? It's indicative of the actual problem, which is either retention or it's service-based, or you don't know how to sell.
Yeah.
And then you can make these micro adjustments that don't require massive risk, really. And that's really what we try to teach people. I'm like, there are 12 options here, or 12 variables here that we can adjust that all directly link to this problem. And all you're looking at is the front number. Like, well, if I just double the front number, and I'm like, you couldn't fulfill on doubling the front number if you wanted to. It doesn't matter, right? Let's just work with what you got and fix that. Then we can worry about doubling it. I'm having no problem doubling it if you could handle the volume.
Yeah. A lot of times we get on these calls and, with these gym owners or start working with them, and we're like, we tell them all the time, like, we don't want to get you 30 signups the first month. Like, it is going to crush your systems. It's going to crush everything. Like, we're not that company. We want to see you grow 100% over 12 months, right? Because, if you can't close at 85 to 90% of organic traffic, you're not going to close at 70% with cold traffic. Or if you're losing 10% of your members, you're going to lose 15% of your members with cold traffic. Or if you don't have a nurture process and you don't have somebody dedicated to it, you're wasting money. So once you solve all of these problems first, then you pour the gas on the fire, because then you set up a system that's actually going to work. Because, like your gym or other gyms, once you get 200 and plus members, even at 3 to 5%, you're still losing a decent amount. And it's a tough, like, that's the thing. Everybody thinks that like it's great to get to 400 members, but like that's probably 15 people losing a month,
Yeah. I mean, just look, if you were crushing, meaning like if you were crushing your retention at 300 members, 9 people are walking out there. Let's just average it and say 10. 10 people are walking out the door every month. If you are just, if you are like A++.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's probably higher than that, right? At 300 members, like, but guaranteed you are going to churn 10 people a month. Okay. So if you've not solved lead flow, or you don't know what a good user experience on a website is, or you don't know how to do cold outreach, or you don't know how to do anything that would resemble writing a sales letter or reaching out to old clients, if you're not going to those things first because they're free, and that is a skill, by the way, you can get really good at those things, then then people just go right to paid traffic. And I'm toying around with a couple different things with regard. Like I believe in paid marketing. I believe that most people are not prepared to use paid marketing, right? And this is my theory, and I've seen it many, many, many times. And I also believe that there is a very specific spot that you could get an affiliate to that would indicate that they are prepared to handle the volume, and financially they're prepared to play that game the right way. And what I mean by play it the right way is they don't walk to the table. They don't walk up to the blackjack table with $5 hoping to win $1 million, right? They walk up to the blackjack table with $1 million being totally fine making $5, right?
Yeah.
So I want them to do the opposite. So like you guys see this, but I want people to walk in and rather than try to work from the minimum into a higher paid strategy, meaning like I'm gonna try to start here because that's all I can afford, and then work my way up. I want them to walk in and be like, here's 10 grand. We'll ratchet it down after this, but I can for sure make this work. And I will actually work my way down to the optimal spending level. And I want them to be able to do that from a position which is like, if we lit that money on fire, it wouldn't matter.
Man, Fern, listen, that's one of my big things when, like we tell people all the time on these sales calls, yeah, hey, like if this is a last ditch effort to save your business or you need this to work, we're probably not the guys, right?
Yeah.
Like when we first started working with you, like I had no concerns when you reached out, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. I know Fern, I know the way he's wired, straightforward. Like this isn't because for me and Blake as well, I'm gonna feel on it. Been one for years, been in CrossFit for years. I want to see everyone win, and I don't want you working with us specifically to hurt your business, right? If you really can't afford it, but you make it work, then let's just say it doesn't go as fast as you need. Like you need it to go from 0 to 100, but we can only get you from 0 to 60 the first 4 months. Now you're like, yes, it worked, but not hard as I want, so I'm gonna have to stop doing it or figure it out. And I'm just like, so in the
Well,
beginning, we had to turn down a lot of gyms.
yeah. Well, I think the other thing that people don't understand about anything that is paid is that it takes a while. Like full transparency, and you guys already know this. Like we had to change many things in our sales process before that started to catch. So it's like you kind of have to be okay with losing. I don't want to say an uncomfortable amount of money. Like that wasn't uncomfortable. I don't like losing money. Don't get me wrong, but like I was like,
Correct.
this is how it works, man. Like
Yeah.
we're like, oh, we're not getting responses. We're not getting the conversions. And I'm like, okay, well, based on these percentages, it's us. What do we need to change? Right. Like
Yeah.
the leads are coming in. There's clearly something broken on our end. And we went through multiple iterations of that. And then finally, like, I'm like, oh, this version works. Right. Like, so, and like moving to something that looks like a discovery call, right? Instead of doing a dial for dollars where like I'm going straight from lead into like show up for a consult, I'm like, the discovery call works way better in this scenario. Is that for everybody? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But the whole point is like there's an experimentation process there, and you have to develop a new muscle for paid sales, right? That's not the same. Everybody,
Oh,
the running joke is like, I'm good at sales. I'm like, fucking everybody's good at sales, man. If they walked into your gym, they're buying, dude. Like, don't confuse that with being good at sales, man. Right?
man,
Until you walk into that other world where you're like, you got to call this person who like kind of wants to stiff you, and then you can make that sale. Like now we can say that you're good at sales.
Correct. I agree 100. I agree 120%. Like from working with you guys at your gym, it's been a pleasure for us because, like you said, like you guys figured out some things like, oh, this isn't working as good. You've never once come up and say, guys, you're crushing it on the lead flow, but like this is not good because of this. Like you've always come to us and say, hey, listen, like you guys are doing your job, we're not doing ours. We got to figure this out. Then you guys come back and
Yeah.
do it, and that just makes it so much better because long term, I know you guys are going to win this game. Long term because you're always looking at like this is what we need to do, not like okay, yes, you've done your job, what we pay you for, but you still need to do more.
Yeah, well, I look at it through probably just because I've been at it longer, but like this for me, it's a learning process. Like I have to learn a new skill now because if I do want to bring, not if I do want to grow to a 400-person gym, I also mathematically know what is going to be required to do that, which is like, well, we need to develop some new skill sets that we do not currently have. So that's going to be a little bit painful. You're going to mess some stuff up. You're going to lose some money. You're going to do a bunch of other stuff. But I'm like, but we'll do it long enough and we'll do it well enough and we'll correct it at a high enough frequency that like we will get good at it. And when I get good at it, again, now it's just one more thing for me to be able to leverage at certain times. And then I can be way more strategic about it, right? I can go back and look at 2023. I'm like, what were the down months? I'm like, let's bump ad spend up going into those down months, right? Like let's buffer that so that I don't have down months anymore, right? Let's hit the same targets all the way and keep our steady growth rate. And we had to fix a bunch of stuff on the back end, right? Administratively, that just needed to be tweaked to create redundancy, to create better tracking and more transparency across all the teams. So like everybody was up to speed on what was going on and why. And listen, it was painful, man, but like, that's the game. Like that's how it works.
Well, we're going to get ready to wrap up. But I'm going to ask a question, total self-seeking question. How's your experience been working with us, right? We've been working together for a little while now. Like, how's it been? And I want you to, I don't even have to say that. I know you'll be honest, but like, how has it been?
I mean, it's been good. It's been exactly what I anticipated it being. It's been a learning curve, meaning like, hey, I knew there was going to be things that we would have to figure out. Like, hey, what ads work? What doesn't work? What precisely does that funnel need to look like? How do we need to adjust it? Right? Like, are we doing what we need to do? So, it's been good because I think because my expectation was correct, which was like, I didn't engage you guys because I was like, I need to fucking make money. I was like, I engage you because I was like, I need to learn some things and this is how I'm going to do it. So let's get it on, right? Like, let's start the process of learning, which is not always comfortable. Yeah,
no, for sure. Okay. And then before we get out of here, if someone doesn't know how to find you, how do they find you, Fern?
Easiest way is just Coach J Fern on Instagram, but best hour of their day, or just go to besthour.com. If you don't listen to the podcast on all podcast platforms, check out The Knowledge. You can find it in the App Store, The Knowledge by Best Hour of Their Day. If you have any questions about coaching, developing yourself or your coaching staff, there's a Knowledge Pro. There's a variation of that for the gym owner if you want to give that to all your coaching staff. And it's probably one of the best coach development resources out there. And then Affiliate U, we specialize in CrossFit affiliates. It's all we do. It's our bread and butter. We work with more CrossFit affiliates than anybody all over the world. So if you're listening to this and you want to reach out, please feel free. Shameless plug here, like prices are going up in 2024. So if you want to set up a sales call before then, I don't know. They are, right? I'm just gonna be honest with you. They are. So, but if you want to get locked in at 2023 rates, feel free to reach out. Or if you just want to get on a call and figure out where you could be better, we're not going to hard sell you, man. Like, get on a call. We'll tell you what we think. And we turn people down all the time. And that's not a bullshit statement. Like, we actually do that. So yeah, that's it, man.
Love it. All right, guys. Hey, listen, this is how you get in contact with Fern. 2023 rates are only here for a little while. reach out, guys. But as usual, remember, tell a friend to tune in, and we will see you guys next week. Fern, thanks for coming in, brother. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Gym Marketing Made Simple podcast with Blake Ruff and Sherman Merritt. We hope you enjoyed. We believe marketing should increase revenue and not waste money. So book your free call today. Head on over to lassoframework.com. That's lassoframework.com and find the right words, get more customers, and increase your revenue. We'll see you here next time.